some Thanks so much, team. We've seen some wins in Jamaica and, of course, in Barbados and soon to be Jamaica. We're manifesting that. And, of course, across the region with various different regulations and, again, securing a healthier school food environment. And we really wanted to, again, build on that momentum, leverage the momentum. And so we're having this session today to really focus on some campaigns that we have related to healthy school food environments, share some school policy updates. We have a communicator, expert communicator on the call who's also going to share with us some tips and tricks for how we can effectively communicate this information about healthier school food environments. And of course, we have various, as we've already seen, various different actors on the call. Some civil society, youth advocates, some advocates within the government development agencies. So again, we're really thrilled to have you all, and hopefully we can have some engaging conversation about how we can continue to work together effectively on this agenda. And so here is the agenda for today. Again, quite packed. We're going to have an overview of very much aligned with the objectives of what's happening in the region, a scene setting section from Maisha Hudden, our executive director, shortly, getting into some innovative advocacy actions. So we have our kind of regional campaigns, but we have some very powerful on the ground local campaigns. So we'll get to hear from Vanetta Nurse and Crystal Walcott. And then, of course, as I mentioned before, get to hear from an expert communicator. And throughout, we're really looking forward to hearing from you and your feedback on the campaigns, your feedback on how we can accelerate action on this agenda further. I did want to take a minute to just get a sense of who is in the room. And so we're going to be using this Mentimeter across the day or across our session today. So inviting you to scan the QR code with your phone, and some questions are going to pop up on the screen. I'm also going to pop the link in the chat. Really great to see everybody. We have Kathleen from Belize, Dion from Jamaica, Jafan, great to see you from UNICEF Belize, Chelsea from Trinidad and Tobago. Excellent. So inviting everyone to scan the QR code, or again to pop that link that I just put in the chat and join the Mentimeter. I'm just going to do two quick questions before we delve in, just to get a sense of who is in the room and your various passions as well, and hopefully we can draw on those. Okay, I'll give you another second. We have some folks in. Okay, great. And I'm actually going to skip the first one because we've gotten a sense of kind of, I think, who's in the room based on your intros in the chat. But I want to get a better understanding of your passion areas, because I think we can, again, leverage these throughout our conversation today. Do we have persons who are passionate about human rights, nutrition, quality education, communication, mental health? All right, we knew that nutrition was going to be one of the top ones. Non-communicable diseases. Ooh, consumer agitation. All right. Empowerment, advocacy, media, campaigns. So a lot of comms folks in the room. Excellent. Equality. Key, I think, for the topic area that we have today. All right, so you're seeing the big words here: empowerment, nutrition, advocacy, youth development, children, education, NCDs, nutrition. And I think we can all agree that the passions that we're seeing on the screen here are so relevant to what we're going to be talking about today. So I'm actually going to invite you to continue to populate this passion area. We'll kind of keep this in mind as we move forward. But again, I think a great way to see how, despite where, thanks, timer, despite where we're all coming from, these key passion areas very much align with the topic of the day. So again, welcome everyone. I'm now going to turn it over to Maisha to really describe to us why we're here. the origin to what we're going to be talking about today, and of course some of the work that we've been doing to set the stage. Maisha?
Thanks, Danielle. Hi, everyone. I think it's slipping into presentation mode. Should be there now.
You're
Can
good to
everyone
go.
see? Great, thank you. Thanks for that great introduction, Danielle, and the Mentimeter. Great to see all the different perspectives and priorities. So, see, there we go. Wanted to start off with this introductory slide, and most of you working in this area are familiar with these numbers, but this is really kind of why we do what we do. 80% or 8 out of every 10 deaths across the region are due to NCDs. 73% of those are premature. In some of our countries across the region, 60% of adults are overweight or obese. And then we also know that 30% of Caribbean children are overweight or obese. And this is extremely outdated data from almost 10 years ago, back in 2016. So this number is likely much higher. And we also know that unhealthy diets are the #1 risk factor for NCDs. And so this is really due to a transition from locally grown endemic foods to highly processed, ultra-processed foods or ultra-processed products, foods high in sugars, sodium, and fats and additives. They're cheap, widely available, accessible, heavily marketed, especially to children. And importantly, they're hyper palatable, they taste great, they look good, and there's increasing research demonstrating their addictive nature. And so this has resulted in a food environment which is broken, a food environment which is obesogenic, in which we all have heard that word, which really drives and encourages overconsumption of UPPs, really for profit rather than for public health. And in response to this, CARICOM leadership have committed to addressing obesogenic environments through a number of policy actions, at the center of which is front of package warning labeling, and that is revolved around taxation, marketing regulation, and actions in various settings, including health promoting schools. And this is endorsed by regionally through the CARFA 6-point policy plan and through PAHO and WHO. And so what are HCC and partners? And I want to emphasize that partners, it's not just HCC, and many of these partners are represented on the call: national governments, CSOs, regional actors. What are we really looking for? Well, we're looking for robust national school nutrition policies or legislation which ban the availability and marketing of unhealthy foods in schools. And again, these are ultra-processed products we're referring to. And those defined by national guidelines or the PAHO nutrient profile model. And that definition of what these foods are is really important. And so when we think about schools, we're thinking about school settings, not only the actual school compound, but a radius around the school and in school-related events where food is available, purchased, or consumed. And we also want to, while we limit the types of food in the school setting, we want to ensure that there's a presence of healthy food options, again, defined by robust nutrient profile models. And so why do we want these school nutrition policies? Well, we talked about the increasing burden of NCDs and obesity on children, and that really triggers early onset of NCDs and higher likelihood of early development of NCDs in young adulthood and adulthood. And we know that fostering these habits in children really predisposes them to ill health. Children spend most of their time in school. We know that healthy diets lead to optimal learning and overall physical and mental well-being. And then, of course, there are the short and long-term socioeconomic benefits from the prevention of NCDs. We've also seen a catalyst for reformulation and food sector innovation. And then finally, and by no means, this is extremely critical, is states have an obligation to protect the rights of children to learn, to grow, to thrive in environments that support health and well-being. And that is enshrined in the Convention on the Rights of Children. And so what policies influence the food served in school settings? And there are various policies here, national school nutrition policies. You'll see them there. And labeling is one I want to point out again, just to reinforce the importance of a strong labeling system to identify those foods which should be regulated in various settings, whether that's taxed, regulating marketing, or within the context of this presentation, school settings. So what has HCC been doing to support this agenda? We have a number of campaigns, and you'll hear about some of those campaigns today, doing those nationally with partners as well as regionally. We've developed tools, model legislation, conflict of interest tools. We've established a vibrant network across the region for sharing of experiences and lessons. We promote special studies and supporting national CSO advocacy. At the regional level, we're also seeing CARFA playing a role, significant role around technical regulations, and an ongoing role for years in this area around the quality of food and school feeding. FAO also similarly playing that role. PAHO and their health promoting schools program. UNICEF as critically as kind of a representative of youth and the regional advocacy development amongst youth. And then the OECS Commission has been working with HCC to support strengthening of Ministry of Education, integration of this across their priority agendas. So I wanted to close off the second half of this presentation with lessons that we've learned through this work. And the first one is really around, what is the structure of the policy, whether or not you have policy or legislation, and noting the limited enforceability of a policy. And then the type of restriction, is it a restriction or a full ban? And we've seen in some countries there's a restriction to a certain level of ultra-processed products versus a complete ban. Clearly defined ownership between and division of labor between the Ministry of Health and Ministry of Agriculture and Education. The policy coverage, this speaks to the geography and the kind of challenges that we're seeing with vendors on the perimeters of schools and offsite events. Which foods are regulated, I talked about just now with the FOPL, and also considerations around non-nutritive sweeteners, and then providing those healthy options. We've also seen the critical importance of sensitizing and engaging key groups and building that support and buy-in within the school settings, amongst concessionaires and vendors, with students and parents, and then with the general public. The importance of a smart implementation plan supported by a multi-stakeholder, multi-sectoral committee, which includes civil society organizations and has safeguards to protect against conflict of interest. A resourced monitoring and evaluation plan. And speaking about resource, just adequate resourcing across the board. We've seen many of these plans and they're not resourced or budgeted. And this also reduces the reliance on private sector, in particular the health harming elements of private sector, to fund a lot of these school-related activities. And in part and parcel of that is identifying health promoting or health neutral companies to step in and fill that void. And then finally, the importance of the conflict of interest components to help the administrators to manage conflicts of interest, to ensure that actors whose objectives are not aligned with the primary objective, the health objective of the SNPs, are not inadvertently or directly influencing the policy. And HCC is working on that with various partners right now. So some of the successes I wanted to wrap up with are civil society and public sector collaboration and coalition building. And we've seen this really prominent in Barbados and Jamaica, and likewise through mass media campaigns. And you'll see an image to the right of campaigns that were implemented in Jamaica and Barbados. The Model Schools program, which has been really successful in Barbados, identifying proof of concept. Alternative beverage list, which was created again in Barbados through the Heart and Stroke Foundation, and really providing the tools to help the administrators to implement the policy by identifying those healthy options. The multi-stakeholder implementation committee, we've seen that also in some countries. Barbados is also working on a monitoring app through the Heart and Stroke Foundation. And then encouraging innovation in Jamaica, we've seen a voluntary registration for compliant food and beverage. So companies are actually coming to the Ministry of Health and saying, we have compliant products, which we want on the list to be sold in schools or made available in schools, which again encourages that reformulation and that innovation I mentioned earlier. We're also seeing emerging and documenting of existing models of procurement policies, and Belize is a really wonderful example of this, and there are many examples across the region which we can tailor and replicate. And then, really looking again at school gardens and how we can strengthen those. And finally, youth engagement, which has been a really powerful tool. And we've seen that, where we've had interventions in the parliament in Jamaica led by Jayan, Jamaica Youth Advocacy Network, and a really powerful initiative held last year, organized by the HCC, HSFB, Heart Foundation of Jamaica, Jayan again, bringing together young people from across the region in a powerful voice, as leading this kind of call for accelerated action on school environments in partnership with key stakeholders, governments, and other local activists. And I'm going to end there. Over to you, Danielle.
Thanks so much, Maisha, for, of course, doing such a fantastic job setting this stage. I think because we're all coming from different backgrounds, some of that information might not have been new to some folks, but some of it might have. But I hope that kind of gives purpose again to why we're here. And one of the key Takeaways for me is always that multi-sectoral, multi-partner collaboration that has led to the successes that Maisha spoke about on that final slide. And the lessons learned, especially with our low resource settings, I think are critical. So hopefully everyone was able to take something away. And now it's my pleasure to introduce Doral Quinton, who is our project assistant and does a phenomenal job of leading our network, which Maisha mentioned. And she's going to give us an overview. We now kind of understand the why we're here. She's going to give an overview of what's been happening in the region in terms of school food regulations. So here to Doral to give a snapshot. Doral? Oh, Doral, I think you're on mute.
Okay, I was just having some issues finding my dog, but thank you, Daniel, for the introduction. And good morning, everyone. Today I'll be just sharing some updates and just highlighting the current landscape of school food regulations around the Caribbean. So first of all, I'd just like to share like a snapshot. So HCC, we track with our childhood obesity prevention scorecard. We track countries which have put in place like either nutrition policies or in the process of implementing those or any guidelines, as Maisha mentioned earlier, the different regulatory approaches that different countries use to restrict or ban the marketing and availability of UPPs in and around schools. So starting off with Bermuda. So early on in 2006, Bermuda, the Ministry of Education, in collaboration with the Department of Health, partnered to implement the Bermuda Healthy Schools Nutrition Policy and the vending machine and cafeteria policy. And you can see the details here. In Trinidad, a cabinet paper was passed which prohibited the sale and serving of sugar-sweetened beverages in schools, and this was implemented in September 2017. And this was in collaboration with the Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Health partnering, and you can find the details here. And evaluation data kind of showed us that up until 2019, compliance was reported to be 99% for primary schools and 97% for secondary schools, but this is up to 2019, so we don't have any post-COVID data. In Barbados, so Barbados has their National School Nutrition Policy, which was approved by Cabinet in May of 2022 and launched in February of 2023. And it is being implemented in phases. So this started during the 2022 to 2023 academic year. And you can find the details here. And this was a collaboration, a partnership between the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Education. Jamaica, they created their interim guidelines for beverages in schools in 2018, and this was fully implemented in 2023. And their school nutrition policy, which was a partnership between the Ministry of Education and Ministry of Education and Youth and Health and Wellness. This was approved by Cabinet early this month, April the 7th, and it will be tabled in the Houses of Parliament as a white paper. Moving on to Bahamas. So Bahamas has their compulsory standards for healthy lunches and also for tuck shops in Bahamian schools, and this was implemented in 2011. And with Belize, a cabinet briefing was passed, which allowed for the gradual banning of the sale of sugar-sweetened beverages in schools. This was started with 18 schools and is now up to 30 schools. This is encouraged, but is not yet enforced, but there is a school nutrition policy, which is in the works and awaiting cabinet approval. And this is being developed by the Ministry of Education along with other partners. In Grenada, a ban on carbonated beverages and sweet snacks in all public and private schools was announced in 2019. And the school nutrition policy was signed by cabinet in 2016, but it's not yet implemented. So in St. Lucia, cabinet approved the ban on the sale of beverages with high sugar content in all schools. This was approved by cabinet in April 2021. This is not yet implemented. You can find the details here and the responsible ministries. And the SMP, school nutrition policy, is currently in draft phase, so we're awaiting any progress regarding that. And in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, their school feeding program is completed and awaiting cabinet approval, and their school nutrition policy has been drafted in collaboration with FAO and PAHO. So we're waiting next steps. For Dominica, they drafted their national school nutrition policy in 2012 and is currently in the process of obtaining approval. So now on to Antigua and Barbuda. So there is no national school nutrition policy drafted or approved as yet, but an SSB taxation policy, a health levy, was approved by cabinet in 2023. It's not yet implemented, but it will place a volume-based levy of $3 per liter. And it's important to note that it also includes restrictions on the sale and marketing of SSBs in and around schools. So hopefully when this is implemented, this will be another way that, a way that Antigua and Barbuda can protect the school environment. And that ends the presentation. I hope this gives a brief, but a good context of the current landscape, so we can, keep that in mind while we listen to our next presentations. So on to you, Daniel.
Thanks so much, Doriel, and top notch with timing. So hopefully everyone got a good glimpse, as Doriel said, of everything that's happening in the region. So as you can see, there's a lot of really great progress. In some countries, we do have policies, they just need an extra push. In some countries, the policies need to be strengthened. And so I think this is where the people power should be involved throughout the policy development process. But in terms of nudging just a little bit, that's often where we as advocates usually come in. And so with that, it's my pleasure to introduce Tammy Marie. She's a consultant with the HCC. As Maisha would have introduced before, we've had some campaigns that have been developed by HCC and partners to help with that extra nudge. And Tammy has been at the head of conceptualizing some of these really fantastic campaigns. So Tammy, over to you to give an overview of one campaign that's currently running, one digital campaign that's currently running, and another that is going to be launched or relaunched very soon. And just encouraging again, everyone to share any reflections, questions in the chat. I'm going to be asking some questions after this presentation, so looking forward to hearing from you. Tammy?
Thanks, Danielle. Good morning, everyone. As Danny mentioned, my name is Tammy, and I'm a communications consultant with the HCC. Maisha did a great job highlighting, why we advocate for healthy food policies and the impact that they can have on food environments in our schools. And as we saw with Doriel's presentation, there's been growing support across the region for school nutrition policies, but we are not quite yet where we would like to be. So Act on Facts, the Food in Our Schools Matters, was developed in 2022 as part of a wider regional and multi-stakeholder advocacy strategy that aims to promote healthy food environments in the Caribbean. And the two simple facts highlighted throughout the campaign materials remain relevant today. One, the food in our schools matters, and two, policy can make a difference. So I'll share my screen just to remind you guys what the materials for this campaign looks like. Dan, if you can confirm when you guys can see the screen, that works. Yeah,
All right. You can see, just needs to be in presentation mode, then good to go.
Let's see. Can we see? So the materials all allude to the problem while emphasizing the positive potential of policies that regulate the sale and marketing of unhealthy foods and increase access to nutritious foods and clean drinking water in our schools. Like Daniel mentioned, hoping you guys can, just reflect on the materials and let us know how that resonates with you and the work that you've been doing. As a segue to that, so this is a campaign that we will be relaunching sometime next month. But Maisha would have mentioned, funding restraints and conflict of interest in her lessons learned section during her presentation. And so more recently, against, this backdrop, we've developed a campaign that's titled For the Children. And it's a social media campaign that aims to advocate for a ban on the marketing of ultra-processed foods in and around schools and just school environments that are free from the influence of, unhealthy food and drink companies. So these are what the materials look like, and really encouraging everyone to, what we will do is drop in the chat the link for the landing page, really encouraging everyone to take a look and browse, and again, just build that, solid argument as to why we're advocating not just for a ban on the sale, but a ban on the marketing in all its forms in and around our schools. I'm gonna stop sharing, and really, Danny, that's it for me.
Thank you, Tammy. So hopefully, both campaign imagery is familiar to you all, because the Act on Facts campaign would have been launched in 2022, as Tammy mentioned, and then we're going to be relaunching again, building on this momentum next month. And then the For the Children campaign is running digitally across the region right now. So hopefully you all have seen that. Now we want to hear from you. And of course, if anyone needs the link to the campaign materials, maybe to answer these questions, we're popping them in the chat. But just encouraging you to log into Mentimeter. We're going to ask some more questions to hear your thoughts. And of course, welcome anyone who would like to just raise their hand and share. We're really keen to hear some of your reflections. So I will wait. I see some people are already in the Mentimeter. I've popped the link in the chat for those who want to prefer to use their desktop. And I'm just going to ask you some reflective questions on the campaign material, how it resonates with you. And again, we have people from different backgrounds on this call. So I think it'll be very interesting to hear how you think this sort of dialogue could happen in your various communities. All right, I see some thumbs in, so we'll go ahead. So the first question are, we already have some responses. Are there any key messages from the campaign that resonated with you? So both, I guess from both campaign perspectives, just because they are covering very similar content in the general idea of advocating for healthier school food in my environment. So are there any key messages or any key imagery from the campaign that resonated with you? I know for me it was, and Tammy speaks about this all the time, it was for the Act on Facts campaign, the black and white imagery and the bold color. I think Tammy said in her comms, overview, it's really just showing how black and white the issue really is in terms of the action, the bold action that we need to take. Our health, our children's health is not a complicated issue. We really do need to be prioritizing everything that we can to ensure their health and well-being, which a priority for us, of course, is the school food environment. Okay, I'm seeing some words coming in. ACT is bold, awareness, the imagery, colorful, energetic. Great. I don't know if anyone has any, feel free again to raise your hands if you would like to kind of expand on any of the words that we're seeing here. Youth-friendly, great to hear. We're getting an importance of policy. The person who wrote time, I would love to hear your further thoughts on that. But based on what we're seeing here, it seems like the imagery is a hit, hopefully from both of those campaigns. Good, hard hitting. The importance of policy, the children, it's energetic. Too many words, but I like how industry appears bigger than the children. It shows the power they have. Crystal, I imagine that's for the children campaign, right? And Tammy, of course, feel free to pop in as well with any reflections you might have. I'm seeing clarity, which is okay, Crystal, got you. Clarity, which is really important because that's what we want to come through with our messaging. Engagement. Excellent. Okay. Now, a question so thanks everyone for that. I think we have a good overview of some positives, and I'm glad that it resonates, the material resonates with you in this way. And so again, we have multiple different backgrounds in the room. How do you think it's best to disseminate this message? What does having these conversations about accelerating the need for healthier school food environments, what does that look like for you? Very keen, especially to hear from our colleagues that are based in schools. Yeah, any thoughts or reflections? And again, feel free to raise your hand. And then I'm hoping that post our communication expert presentation, we might have some further ideas on this particular question. And also from our next presenters, I think we're gonna get some ideas as well. Okay, need to get the messages to the parents, the PTAs. Okay, always very helpful. And I think that's something that we recognize. But I think very important for it to be reiterated here. Community conversations, youth forums, school visits, utilizing local influencers. Great. Crystal is echoing the principals need to be part of that conversation. Agreed, Crystal. And I think we've seen the power of these principals and school community leaders as champions. Best, I think, in the model schools program that we're seeing in Barbados, where we do have these principals who are the champions and leading the way. Great, we're seeing some more. I'm gonna wait for one more second. And what we'll do is we'll actually show one of the videos from the campaign, just so that you all can see. And then I'm really excited to then turn it over to some local examples of campaigns. Just to see here, key partnerships between government, civil society. So again, we're seeing that partnership, TV commercials, Ministry of Education, Facebook page. And we have some Ministry of Education folks on the call. So not only do we need to amplify this from civil society, health, but we know the role that the Ministry of Education plays, social media for the social media, in-country billboards. Love that we're thinking big. Interesting. Identifying life skills lessons and include within curricula. I'd love to hear more about that. Call for posters, imagery. Okay, this is really helpful. And again, I can hear these ideas coming from different stakeholders. So thank you all so much. Always good to hear and brainstorm. I know we have a short video to play, and then I will invite Vanetta to present. But we have one short video, and then Vanetta, you're on standby. Tammy?
Can you see the screen, Danielle? Yep, I think you can.
Ma'am.
It's sports time again. That means food and drink company, sponsorships and donations and giveaways. Oh my. But is this good for our children? We know ultra-processed products are high in sugar, fats, and sodium. We know they can lead to obesity, hypertension, and diabetes. And yet, we accept them for school events. Studies prove children who eat too much of these products develop poor lifelong habits and disease. And yet we allow ads and branded items in schools that make them appealing to children? Are those donations and sponsorships really for the children or just marketing tricks to hook young customers. Just a way to look good to the public and buy their way into policymaking? I think we all see the truth. Next time we have to decide on a donation or sponsorship or on food policies, let's put our children's health first. It's time to ban the marketing of ultra-processed products in and around schools. Now that's for the children.
Awesome, Tammy. Thank you. So again, that was the second campaign that Tammy spoke about. And all of these materials are on HCC's social media pages, encouraging everyone to reshare. Again, these are products of HCC and with collaborative partners. So thank you, Tammy. And thanks to all of you again for your insights. And so now we did regional. Oh, great. The expert communicator is saying excellent video. So we'll take that. Thank you, Ms. Holder. We went regional, and now we're coming down to some very, very powerful campaigns that are happening locally. And first off, we have Vanetta Nurse, nutrition officer from UNICEF Jamaica, who is going to delve into Fix My Plate. That's the international known name for the campaign, but she's going to delve into what this looks like for Jamaica. And again, the messaging is very similar, but the context is a little different in Jamaica. Vanetta, over to you to give an overview of the campaign.
Thank you, Danielle. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here to share on Fix My Food. I'm sharing my screen, so please let me know if you can see that, Danielle.
Yes, confirming.
Okay, great. So I'm the nutrition officer at UNICEF Jamaica, and I'll be sharing on a global movement that we have now started in Jamaica. So Fix My Food is a UNICEF-led global movement. It's an evidence-based, youth-led campaign that was born in 2021 when 700 young people from 18 countries reported on how they wanted to transform their food systems and their food environments. This really dovetailed well into UNICEF's mandate to amplify youth voices on matters and decisions that affect them. So the campaign has been launched in Vietnam, Mongolia, the Pacific Islands, South Africa, and Fiji. And Jamaica last year was the first in the Latin America and Caribbean region to launch the campaign. The campaign focuses on child rights primarily, but is co-created with young people and contextualized to each country. There's grassroots mobilization, but also grass tops advocacy to decision makers. And because it's co-created, there's a balance of trendy storytelling, a little bit of the cultural aspects of the country that's included. Social media, in media, community engagement, research, and advocacy. And a key part of this movement is to build youth advocacy capacity to advocate for healthier food environments, depending on the country's focus and needs at the time. So in Jamaica, the campaign broadly focuses on advocacy for better food environments. But right now, we're trying to really move the needle as it relates to front of package warning labeling. We know what's been happening in the Caribbean and the delays in terms of the regional standards. But in Jamaica, we still hope to advocate for the Black octagonal warning labels, and we hope to do some work here with young people. In each country that the campaign Fix My Food is launched, there is a national tagline developed by young people. And our tagline is, "It not too late, fix we plate." Very Jamaican, right? So we're advocating for the implementation of FOPWL, but also looking at marrying the policies together. So supporting the implementation and approval of the National School Nutrition Policy, as well as looking at how we can advocate for restricting the marketing of unhealthy foods, because there are a suite of policies that need to be implemented. In Jamaica, the movement is composed of 37 young people from 10 youth organizations. And that was a mammoth feat because there are lots of young advocates in Jamaica in different organizations, and to bring them all together, that's where the collaborative spaces happened. We've had 3 youth capacity building workshops, and we had a soft launch, digital launch of the campaign in November 2025 with a website, open letter, and social media content. And we can share some of that in the chat so you can have a look. Moving ahead though, we hope to, this is an election year for Jamaica, so we hope to capitalize on that. We want to continue campaigning for FOPWL, get some traction on the open letter, which we hope to present in Parliament, hopefully. A Report poll on front of package warning labeling, and other features that were developed by our youth advocates. So they want to do a radio segment, opinion pieces, community and school activations. And the research piece is very important because it will be youth focused. So youth opinions on FOPL, nutrition in schools, as well as marketing. So some of the lessons learned in terms of collaboration, we collaborated primarily with the Jamaica Youth Advocacy Network, being the strongest youth organization right now in terms of nutrition advocacy. And they were able to mobilize the other youth groups, Fear with Children, National Secondary Student Council, the Jamaica Union of Tertiary Students, and then we of course had our collaboration with the Healthy Caribbean Youth Advocates in Jamaica and the HFJ's youth group, Jaya. So civil society, youth, and of course with UNICEF's technical and financial support, we continue to create those spaces for youth voices, creating the collaborative spaces, this capacity building, and encouraging the co-creation with young people. The youth groups were also able to, one of the things that's important is that singular voice. So whatever campaigns were being run by JAN or HFJ, integrating the Fix My Food campaigns in what's already being done is also important, so that we're speaking with one voice. We are a strong coalition of young people, and I think that's really important, so that we're not, cross-purposing. And leveraging the key strengths of each group is also very important. We also had significant support from Back 2030, which is a UK-based youth organization. They have had wonderful traction in the UK in terms of food policies, and we hope to learn from them. So they provided some of the mentorship, the technical capacity building, and the strategy development going forward for the campaign. This is just some of our work, some of the pictures from our workshops and some of our activations. And I invite you to click this link. I'll put it in the chat so you can have a look at some of the social media content, as well as the open letter and what we're all about. Thank you very much.
Can I see some love for Vanetta and Fix My Food in Jamaica? Vanetta, congratulations. I think we're now seeing some strategies, right? So we got the digital campaign piece at the regional level. We're now seeing some various strategies that can be leveraged locally. And of course, the meaningful engagement of young people. I know, Vanetta, it is not easy, as you emphasized, but you did it, and you've been able to bring and sustain that youth engagement throughout the campaign so far. So congratulations, hopefully inspiring to those who are on the call. Thanks, Vanetta. I know you have to run, but if anyone has any questions for Vanetta, please feel free to pop them in the chat, and hopefully she can address them before she goes. Thanks, Vanetta. So we're moving from Jamaica to Barbados, and we have Crystal Walcott, Mass Media Communications Officer, the Childhood Obesity Prevention Project, Heart and Stroke Foundation of Barbados. They would have recently launched, very timely, Protect Us campaign, really focusing on marketing to children in schools, and I will allow Crystal to give the overview of this fantastic campaign. Crystal?
Hey, good morning, everyone. So jumping straight into it with our campaign video.
The school nutrition policy was created to foster a healthier school environment. Yet, everywhere we look, we still see the marketing of unhealthy foods and drinks in our schools. This influences children to choose unhealthy foods and drinks, which will make us sick as adults. If these foods are being removed from schools to improve our diets, why are they still being marketed to us? 31% of children are overweight or obese. Protect us. It's time to ban marketing of unhealthy foods and drinks in schools.
A message from the Heart and Stroke Foundation of Barbados and partners.
Hey, the school. Okay, just making sure it was moving. Okay, so as you would have seen from the campaign video, the main message that we wanted to communicate was The foods are being removed to protect children from unhealthy products. Why are they still being marketed to them? Here in Barbados, we are seeing quite a bit of school tours. We have sponsorships, we have branded materials ongoing against the regulations of the school nutrition policy. If we want to get technical in terms of the black and white on page 34, it says that there should be no marketing to children in schools. So this campaign was executed from March 4th to April 11th for a 6-week run with some of our very critical partners being UNICEF, PAHO, HCC, and CARE. It was placed on the TV, radio, out-of-home, social media, just to make sure we got as much reach as possible with the message. And the key messages, the first one being the fact that 31% of our children here are overweight or obese. We wanted to reiterate the fact that what is continuing in the schools is against the policy. We also wanted to find opportunities to enforce how marketing is impactful on children. I don't think people realize it's impactful on us as adults. Imagine how children are being affected. So that has been key within our campaign messaging. And then linking it to the long-term exposure. What does marketing do to children's eating habits and their preferences? And that contributes to the overall burden that we're seeing when it comes to NCDs in Barbados. And just to the right of the screen, these are some of the graphics that were done. These were the main graphics that were adapted to the various platforms. I think my favorite one shows the X through the products because we don't want them in schools anymore. So just some of the campaign reach from Facebook, we have pretty good engagement there. And going back to what Maisha said about the coalition here in Barbados is very strong. And throughout the campaign, we find ways to engage them. So we would have had some media interviews. We also include our youth on the ground so that their perspectives are shared. And we're finding that the youth perspective is very important, especially at the higher level. So any opportunity that we get, we ensure to include our youth advocates. This is some of the coverage that we would have gotten from the campaign launch. And we got pretty good coverage after that as well. We're seeing here the minister is engaging with Mrs. Faith Marshall Harris. And another key point in the campaign was looking at the child's rights perspective. So that is why she was really critical to integrate into this space. So here we also have the little bus shelter there. So that, is very prominent. That's one in the out of home. And our advertorial where we made a final call for children to be protected. And thank you so much. I will be sure to drop the campaign link in the chat. Even though it's completed, you're still able to find the materials on the website and learn more about what we are pushing here in Barbados.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Crystal. So again, we're hearing the youth, just in terms of strategies, the youth engagement piece, and I think very important, and we've heard it from the very start with Maisha's presentation, is that coalition building. Crystal, you have such the Heart and Stroke Foundation has such a strong group of people, stakeholders from various different sectors, and I think again kind of reflects who's on the call right now, various different sectors. And to go back to Vanetta's presentation, who have that unified message and that unified voice. So again, I think lots to learn from our partners on the ground. Thank you so much. I wonder, do we have any questions? I know Vanetta had to hop off, but any questions for Crystal? And I know we have members of the HSFB team on the call in case they have broader questions too. Okay. Thank you so much, Crystal. Appreciate and congrats again on all the fantastic work. I am seeing some loves. So we would have had from Jane noting an excellent video. Thank you, Jane. And again, keep the reflections coming in the chat. I am now excited to turn it over to our special guest, the expert communicator that we've been chatting about, and it's my pleasure to actually turn it over to our communications officer, Sheena Warner-Edwards, who will introduce Ms. Holder. Sheena?
Good morning, everyone. First up, to mention, and Maisha would have shared all of the partners that we would have worked with over the course of the implementation of these campaigns. So one of those groups that we've worked closely with is the media. And this is through the Caribbean Broadcasting Union. We have met Ms. Holder, who has been an excellent communicator throughout, I mean, just being in her presence, there's so much to learn. So I'll give a brief bio just before she makes her presentation. So Colleen Holder is an esteemed communications specialist. She also has vast experience as a television news presenter and producer in the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. Colleen graduated with a Bachelor of Arts degree in Mass Communication with a major in radio production from the University of the West Indies, Mona, Jamaica, in 1997. She worked in the newsroom of Music Radio 97 for 4 years before moving to Tobago in 2002 to head the newsroom of Tobago Channel 5. She then moved back to Trinidad in July 2003 to become part of the news team at CCN TV6. Colleen anchored the flagship news broadcast for 4 years before moving on to, this is in TV6 in 2007, and then in April 2009, she joined the state-owned television station, CNMG, where she anchored the station's coverage of the 5th Summit of the Americas. She was seen as the primary news anchor of the station's flagship morning program, First Up, also serving as the station's weekend anchor and producer. Since then, Colleen held the position of Senior Communications Officer in the Division of Infrastructure and Public Utilities, Tobago House of Assembly for 2 years and 7 months, and she currently holds the position of Director, Corporate Communications and Productions at the Office of Parliament, Trinidad and Tobago, to which she has been since August 2014. So I'll hand it over to Colleen to make her presentation.
Good morning. Thank you so much, Sheena, for that introduction. Thank you for inviting me to share with your stakeholders this morning. I'm going to share my screen now. Just let me know if you're seeing my screen.
Thanks, Ms. Holder. We just need it to be in presentation mode, and then you're good to go. And you're getting lots of love from your fellow Trinis in the chat.
Wonderful. Are you seeing it from? Oh, there we go.
Perfect.
All right, perfect. Just give me 1 second. Great. So I wanted to say again, thank you so much for inviting me. And I wanted to say fantastic presentations that went before. I am very happy about the campaigns that I've seen. I'm seeing them here, but as a former media practitioner, I'm wondering how come I haven't seen them across the region. So that's something that you should be working on in terms of sharing the content across the region. I mean, it's fantastic stuff, but if it's only being seen in your neck of the woods, then it's difficult, I think, for other persons across the region to really see what's happening. I love the snapshot of what is happening across every country in terms of policy. That is also fantastic. So what I'll be talking about this morning is how to engage the media, but not just the media, because the media is just one audience. And while I was listening, I made my own notes before the session started. So one of the things you have to look at is who is your audience? We're talking about media here, but your audience is also the general public. Your audience is also parents. Your audience is policymakers. So you also have to look at government agencies. You have to look at parliamentary committees. You have to look at PTAs. You have to look at teachers' organizations, farmers' organizations. There's so many people, and each audience needs its own tailored message. So we're going to get into that. Okay, so what am I showing you here? It's primary school children with what looks like healthy meals before them. Secondary school children with, again, what looks like healthy meals before them. And I can speak to both because in primary school, we had the school feeding program in Trinidad and Tobago since I was small. I'm in my 50s now, and I can clearly remember getting almost every morning a cup of milk with biscuits. Delicious. My sister was allergic to milk, so I got her share. Very happy about that. But it goes back to primary school. So we're affecting primary school children. So the beneficiaries of all the campaigns and everything we're talking about are these primary school children who'll be getting healthy meals. Also the secondary school children, and even in primary school, up to now, my nephew he's still in primary school, and every day once there's extra food, because we have a fantastic school feeding program for preschool, primary school, and secondary school. Every day, whatever they have extra, he brings it home because it is delicious. So the beneficiaries of the policies that we want to change or impact are these children here, primary, secondary, and it takes them into adulthood. My nephew, again, he loves vegetables, and because we train them on that, so when they go to school, it's all the really healthy foods that they have. That's what they eat all the time. So the thing is that you have to try as best you can with whatever campaign you have. You have to look at your audience, look at who are the beneficiaries, but target your message very specifically. So you have to craft clear and impactful messages. And how are you going to do that? So, and I will send you, I've sent the presentation to Sheena, so she'll be able to send it to you as well. So I won't go through everything word for word. So you have to identify what is the message and what is the solution? What's the issue you want to change? Is it that you want more vegetables in the school feeding program? Do you want more vegetables on a day-to-day basis for school lunch? I don't know if every country has a school feeding policy. As indicated, some countries do, some countries don't. But is it that you want more farmers to be involved? How are you going to get that done? How are you going to get that message across, whether it's to the policymakers or even to the farmers? Because there may be a policy, we're going to be bringing in more vegetables in schools. But if the farmers don't know that, how is that information going to get down to them so that they can then start targeting the ministry or targeting whoever is making the meals so that the healthy food gets into the hands of the children? So you have to figure out what is the problem and what is the solution. You have to present a solution, because if it is you're going to the media, they don't want you to just fluff. They don't want you to ramble on, because time is money in the media. You have to have an issue. You have to be very concise. You have to know what you're saying, because believe you me, and I can speak as a former member of the media, we have other things doing. So if you can't get your point across very quickly, very succinctly, we're going to move on to the next. I'm saying we, but the media will move on to the next thing. So you have to be very clear. What is your problem? What is the solution? You have to bring a solution when you present a problem. So let's see the example here. Many students are receiving meals that don't support their physical or mental well-being. Poor nutrition affects their health and academic success. What's the solution? The solution is we put more vegetables in their plate during the week in school, because some children, as we know, when they go home from school over the weekend, they may not have access to healthy meals. And the only time they have access to this is during the week. So we have to make sure they have healthy meals at school. Right? So we clarify the problem and present a tangible solution. Craft a strong narrative so people connect to stories. Again, the story that I told just now about me growing up or going to primary school and getting milk and biscuits every day. And I can tell you that it has definitely impacted me, that I make healthy food choices, not all the time, obviously, but I make healthy food choices going back to primary school. So people like to hear stories, humanize the stories, humanize, well, John is going to school, he's not feeling well. He didn't have a meal today at home, but when he gets to school, he knows that he's going to, and have the parents say, I'm so happy that my child can get a healthy meal when he goes to school because we can't afford it. And then you segue into, well, if the policy is changed, et cetera, et cetera. So you have to craft your narrative and so that the media is able to share that information. The media love to have, I don't want to call them these heartfelt stories. They always want a story about somebody down on their luck sometimes, but there is a solution to whatever problem they're facing. If you can craft a message similar to that, then you will get through with your message. Use data as well. I'm glad in one of the presentations you got statistics. Media loves statistics. Here's the example again. Studies show that schools with healthier meal options report a 20% improvement. Those are things that people can look at and say, oh, a 20% improvement over no improvement at all in a particular school. So therefore, that 20% means we need to put more effort into providing healthier food options for our children. All right, so keep your messages clear and concise. Focus on the key points. Use simple language and be repetitive. You have to repeat your message all the time. 3 times is usually a good measure of how many times a message should be repeated, whether it's on your social media platforms, whether it is to a member of the media, whether it is to a school group. Keep your messages on point. What are the key issues? What are the solutions? We want healthier food options in our schools. We need to target the farmers. And then the media is going to, oh, that's an interesting point. Let's go talk to some farmers and find out how they think they can get their products into schools. So by you keeping on point, you can help to influence policy as well. Next, create attractive graphics. And we have seen the fantastic campaigns. I really applaud you all. Fantastic campaigns. Keep at it. It's going to help change what you do. And from the perspective of me working at Parliament, we do have a parliamentary committee, social services and public administration, and they focus a lot on what's happening in the schools, whether it is education-wise or whether we had a recent report. I put it in the resources at the end of my presentation on school nutrition. And it was a report that was laid in Parliament in 2019. And so when you present facts to parliamentary committees, when you present facts to the policymakers and the people who can change the laws, that's where you will see the benefit of what you are doing. It's not in vain. Take it from me. It's not in vain. You just have to keep at it. But again, who is your audience? You have to know, you have to target persons in particular for who can take your message forward. If you know there's a parliamentary committee meeting coming up or parliamentary committee that deals with specific things, target that committee. You can go on your Parliament's website, and we have a parliamentary website. Go on the website, see who are the members of the committee, there's contact information for them. Send them a link to whatever your campaign is. Explain to them, this is what we need to see done, this is what we need to see happen. And sometimes this is how the committees as well take on the issue of dealing with a particular issue, because they can have then a whole committee meeting, they can have a hearing, they can call in persons to give information, etc., etc. So what you do can influence policy, but you have to figure out who is your audience. I really do enjoy or like the fact that the fact sheets are coming, the graphics are very pretty. Who is your audience? Are they for the children? Are the children going to see these ads? Are the children going to see these graphics? Or is it for the parents? Is it for the policymakers? Is it for the business people to then change their tactics? So you have to figure out who is your audience. Right, so again, another very pretty, very bright, use bright colors because they attract a lot of people. They attract the children as well. And where are you placing your graphics? Who is your audience again? Is it on TikTok, Facebook? Do you have podcasts? All those things. You have so many people trying to vie for, you have to vie for their attention, and you have to do it in the most strategic way. So you can do a call to action. So whether it is a call to action, you're sending it to the media, you're sending it to other civil society groups, you can send it to teachers, you can send it to the farmers again, because if it is we're talking about healthy food policy, farmers have a part to play in that. So you have to be clear and concise. So the example here, let's say, join us in advocating for better nutrition in schools. Contact your local policymakers today and tell them that our children deserve healthier meals. And with something like that, you can include a link to your Parliament's website with the contact number, email addresses for the members. You know, so many ways that you can get people, get the eyes of the nation on what you are doing and help to change policy, and it will trickle down eventually. All right, so next we move to how to engage the media on school food policy change. So you have to develop a strong media strategy. And I know with some civil society groups, you may have a consultant as I think it's TM, what's her name? I can't remember her name, but yes. You're right. So I'm sure that some groups may not be able to hire a consultant, but if you can, wonderful, and they can craft the media strategy for you. But if you are a grassroots group and you're not able to hire a consultant, you still have to think about how do we develop a media strategy. And it's not very difficult, but it takes time, it takes effort, and it takes it's really better to assign someone to do that. So if you have whether it is someone who is good at graphic design, somebody who just got out of university, who has a degree in communications or something like that, or a youth advocate who is just good at talking to people, then you can bring that person on board to help with this media strategy. Because at the end of the day, the media also helps to carry your story. So you can find local news outlets. I know let's say we have a radio station in Toco, which is a very sort of remote area in Trinidad. So you have a local news outlet. You have education and health publications. You have national media organizations. You have the TV6s and the TTTs and the national organizations that can help to move your policy forward or move your story forward. However, you have to develop a relationship, and I'll move to that in the next slide. So you also have to craft an engaging press release. So whatever is your story, you have to craft something that will grab their attention. So it can't just be on Monday. I can't help you to write a press release right now, but here's a nice example of you have to hook people from the first line. In a groundbreaking move to tackle student health. What is the issue tackling student health? How are we going to do it immediately? Immediate policy changes are needed, etc. So you have to think of ways to grab the media's attention. So you have to distribute a media kit. A media kit is extremely important because at a glance, it gives the media a snapshot of your organization, the issues that you are advocating for, and what you want done, as well as contact information for the persons in your organization. It's very important. What is the organization about? Why is it important that they pay attention to you? What information do you have out there already? Do you have an advocacy campaign? Do you have links? All of these things as well can be done soft copy. So you can have a hard copy media kit as well as in a flyer form with basic information about your organization and so on. But it's great as well to do this as a soft copy so that you can share it. WhatsApp right now is one of the best mediums to share information quickly. So if you could create a WhatsApp chat for members of the media. Here at Parliament, we do have a WhatsApp chat for members of the media, and we have over 100 media practitioners, television, radio, print, digital, photographers, you name it. Anything happening in Parliament, we just drop the information in the chat and they turn up. Whether it is a committee meeting, a sitting of the House, something else happening, we drop information in there and it gets shared, one, and also it gets covered. So you want coverage, you want eyes on your campaign, you want eyes on whatever your organization is doing. So it's very, very important to create a media kit and also to create media relationships. One important thing is contact information is very important for the media, because let's say you send something out to the media, and I can tell you that there are slow news days. Let's say Saturdays and Sundays are usually slow news days. If it is that they get a press release from you on a Friday and they know there's nothing really happening on Saturday or Sunday, and they say, you know what, let's do a story on, I just got a press release from whoever, and let's do a story on it. But they try to call you, they can't get you, or you only switch on your phone, you switch off your phone on weekends, or they can't, the email address that you send, it keeps bouncing back, and they're going to move on to something else. But if it is even on a slow news day, you can get a member of the media to contact you, then they will know that when something really important comes up, they can just pick up the phone and call you, and you will get your story out there. So you have to be available. Again, build relationships with journalists. Journalists love expert access. I'll do the second one first. They love to have exclusive interviews. You're running a campaign and you call up journalist X and say, listen, we're running this campaign, we're launching the campaign on Monday, and we want to give you exclusive access. We want to have you do the first interview with us. They're going to love that. Journalists love exclusive access to any information they can get on any subject. Believe you me. So if it is that they are the first, they will happily take it. And then you can filter your information down to other people. Make sure and have contact numbers to the media so that you can call them up when anything is happening in your organization, any campaigns are being launched, anything like that, so that they can get the story out for you. They also love the personal touch. So if you see a story and you can build relationships with journalists, especially who have what we call beats in the media. So there are some journalists who cover only politics. There are some journalists who cover only sports, but there are others, and there are others who cover social issues, entertainment, etc. If you go through the newspapers or whatever media and you realize journalist X covers education, then that is a journalist you need to be calling every single time you have something happening. So you build a relationship with that person so that make sure if you see a story that they do, oh, I saw a story that you did on, we need more farmers in schools or something like that. I have a farmer or I have a parent whose child is in primary school and they're getting fantastic local foods. And I want you to talk to that person. Would you mind? And it links back to you, because at the end of the day, the journalist will mention the fact that so-and-so organization is doing a campaign on X, Y, or Z. So find ways to get your story in there. It'll be helpful, again, if you are very reachable, so that when persons need to reach you, they can reach you. Right. So again, be available, be responsive. People work with tight deadlines. You may have seen stories sometimes in a newspaper or heard the journalists say, we reached out to so-and-so, but there was no response up to news time or up to the printing of these articles because people were not reachable. And if you are reachable, then they will be able to get the full story before they go to air or go to print with whatever issue they're dealing with. So you have to be reachable at all times. Well, as often as possible. Leverage social media. Most organizations now have Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. They do podcasts. We have all of the above. And so people are able to contact us. We're able to share our message. The same message, we just tailor it for all of the different platforms. So you have to also share your information on all these platforms. And journalists definitely do go through people's social media to see, oh, is there a story here? Is there a story there? So once you share information as often as possible, even a journalist who you have not contacted may contact you to say, oh, I saw a story on so-and-so. Would you mind if I chatted with you? Other ways to share your information, you have specialized like newspaper groups, like on Sundays in the newspapers here, we have a children's section. We have a women's section. You might have on Wednesdays, I think you might have the business section or something else. You might have a health section on a Tuesday. So you have to look at what are the avenues for you to share your information to a specified group. On a Sunday, you can put a story in about parents or mothers giving their children healthy foods in the women's section. You have the children's section where you can pay for your one of your graphics to be shown targeting children and telling them they need to make healthier food choices. So all these things you have to look at in order to get your message out there to the widest audience possible. Podcasts and online Q&As are very good for getting experts to share information again about what your issue is and the solution to the problem that you are posing. Right, so establish long-term relationships with media outlets, build sustainable relationships with them, make sure and contact them, even if it is you see your story, you call them up. Oh, thanks so much for printing that story. If there's any other information you need, so you follow up with them. So it's not just a one and done and they don't hear from you again until your next campaign next year. Keep at it and harass them. Don't afraid to harass them. We love to be harassed as media. Well, yes, as media people, because at the end of the day, again, like I say, there will come days when there are slow news days. And if you are in their face all the time, your story will get into the newspaper or into the news on a slow news day. Even if it's a simple story, it will get in there, right? So offer them exclusive content in terms of whether it's you're going to visit a farmer and you want to get cutaways or shots or whatever. make sure and offer these things so that once you build up a relationship with them, it's easier to get your story out there. Right, so final tips for effective advocacy. Continue to tell a compelling story. You can use human interest stories. You can find parents who say, I've seen an improvement in my child's academic performance because, or he's sleeping better because he's getting healthier meals in school, things like that. We love data. 10 more children are eating healthily, or 10 more children are seeing better grades because of ABC, XYZ. Focus on solutions. What is the solution? If we know that the children should not be eating drinking sugary drinks or eating fast food, what's the solution? Target the farmers, get the farmers organizations involved, get them then to advocate to the government. Listen, we are here, we have all this fresh food. Why don't you get us to buy the food from us to put in the schools and those kinds of things. Make sure and use your visuals. I saw lots of that today. So I'm not afraid that you all are going to overstimulate people. The more the merrier. Get the graphics out there. Make sure they impact the student. Who is your audience? Again, you have to figure out who is your audience, because children would prefer the shorter videos, fast-paced, but the parents would use more graphics to the parents. They like to see the data and the information and so on. So you have to know who is your audience and be persistent. Advocacy takes time. Policy change takes time. A committee, let's say for a parliamentary committee, a campaign for a particular issue may take months, and then they have to lay it in parliament, and then 2-3 years later, a policy may change or a law may be passed, but it takes time. You just have to be persistent. All right, so by focusing on clear messaging, crafting compelling stories, and effectively engaging with the media, your campaign will have a better chance of not only raising awareness, but also driving real lasting policy change in school food systems. So I just have some resources here. Again, these are all hyperlinks. So when you get the PDF presentation, you'll be able to click on them. We have the FAO School Food Global Hub with information on Trinidad and Tobago, the National Schools Dietary Services Limited Trinidad and Tobago. This is the committee report from the Committee on Social Services and Public Administration. We have the Media Association of Trinidad and Tobago, members of parliament. You can feel free in Trinidad and Tobago, members of parliament, whether it's MPs, independent senators. You have an issue, send an email to them, call them up, and share your information with them so that your information gets to the widest audience. All right, so that's my presentation. I hope that it's been helpful. Are there any questions?
Thank you so much, Ms. Fuller. That was excellent. I don't know if we have any immediate questions, but just want to highlight, it's interesting, right? We started this conversation with, the scene setting. We delved into digital campaigns, which we appreciate do take resources, right, to create those campaigns. But you ended us with some things, some activities that we can do that take time, but may not necessarily need monetary resources. Effective relationship building. Yes, that takes time, but it will be worth it. Having those interviews, I love the clear, concise messaging. And you gave us just lots of tips, I think, to reflect on and that we can use in our advocacy moving forward. You have 2 questions, so I'm going to stop talking and go to Jamid. Would you mind introducing yourselves and posing your question?
Good morning. I am Jamid Tayul. I am the Monitoring and Evaluation Officer at the UNICEF Willis Country Office. One question, I do understand the advocacy, and perhaps it might be derailing from what is the core of the HCC. But when it comes to advocacy, I think a general aspect of getting governments more involved is gathering the data for evidence. What I'm getting here is that we're advocating for the fact of business practices, of the marketing, and how that influences nutrition in school with children. My question is, how can the HCC advocate in aligning government ministries to speak with each other and not work in silos, but work more as a team effort? For example, if we're speaking about business practices, but if we're not bringing the economic development or the respective ministries from the business communities, everyone will have their own vested interests. For example, the Caribbean context is that the Caribbean on its own is the GDP of importation is very high, and it's especially in processed foods. But if we bring the Ministry of Agriculture and the Ministry of Economic Development or enterprise or whatever the ministries may be related in each country, and bring them into how they align with the Ministry of Education. For example, we are telling children not to eat, but we're not teaching them how to engage into food production, right? Which entails everything in the education sector, from the sciences to the mathematics to really, and it has been proven that when children get their hands on, they appreciate on what we are really telling them. So my question would be, what level can we reach with governments to start communicating with each other and coming along and developing curricula that will be both beneficial in teaching children to produce your own food, become sustainable, and then having that aspect of making their own decisions. Because if we go into the economic aspect, whilst nutrition is very important, when it comes to the daily choices of parents in purchasing nutritious food, sometimes the nutritious foods might be, the prices might be inflated compared to the junk food. So how do we now advocate with government? Okay, listen, this is what we are really putting in the table for children, but guess what? The nutritious food is not affordable. Are we really tackling the issue? This is just a next conversation. And then, of course, I'm already foreseeing a next issue as well, that when it comes to nutritious foods, who or what regulations do we have to ensure that the nutritious foods are almost free of pesticides, fertilizers, etc. So that's a next level of advocacy that I'm already foreseeing, but this is just in the whole aspect of the reign of these nutrition programs, which again, allow me to congratulate you for the advocacy that has been reached so far, but it's just from the M&E perspective that I'm thinking whenever it comes to convincing or influencing governments, to make better decisions and policy changes in the country context. As a Caribbean, of course, if we reach out to the wider CARICOM and see how we come as Caribbean countries to support each other in terms of food production, etc., and making prices affordable, and making the supply for food and nutritious foods for children, a better, a strategic supply chain, I think that would make a difference. Thank you.
Absolutely, Jamid. I wonder, Ms. Holder, can we take the question from Francine as well, just in essence of time, and then we can comment? Yep, Francine, go right ahead if you can introduce yourself.
No problem. I'll try to see if I can. Okay, go on camera. Hi, good morning, Ms. Holder. Thank you very much. Excellent presentation. There were just two questions I wanted to ask you. Can persons ask to present to any of the houses in Parliament or to parliamentary committees? Is that something, is there a space? Because I'm finding it a little difficult to understand sometimes the parliamentary processes that are available to us as advocates. And wanted to know in Trinidad, is that possible? And when I say persons, I mean obviously credible groups and relevant stakeholders. That's one. And the second one, from your point of view, having both media and I guess now government experience, what do you think? What single thing do you think really matters to policymakers? And also just to say, it would be remiss of me to say that I am from Trinidad. I don't know how we've missed each other, but hopefully one day we will meet.
Thank you so much for the questions, Francine and Jamil. So I'll go back to Jamil's question first. And that takes me back to my point of who is the audience? How do you get, and I suppose Francine's question is intertwined as well. How do you get the governments to listen to you? How do you get the governments to take on board all of this advocacy so that policy can be changed? In other words, governments have to talk to each other, one, and it has to be that the advocacy has to start somewhere, because I really can't see a ministry just saying, oh, we need to, change food policy here in Trinidad and Tobago, which is one of the points I was making earlier as well. Each country has fantastic graphics, fantastic campaigns, but we're not seeing it across the region. So if it is that governments are not speaking, it is because governments may not be aware what is happening across the region. And if it is that you land in Trinidad and you see a campaign on we are pushing healthy foods in primary school, because we do say even in when we had the hurricane and there were some children who came from Dominica. They came to Trinidad and they were in school in Trinidad. So imagine if they already knew about a healthy food policy in Dominica, coming to Trinidad and it's the same healthy food policy. So at the end of the day, how do we get governments to talk to each other as advocates? We have to advocate for our government to then go to CARICOM, because CARICOM is a regional body. And there are so many organizations within CARICOM that can push for this. We have the Chambers of Commerce. We can also push for the Chambers of Commerce to talk to each other, because I believe there is a CARICOM Chamber of Commerce as well. So instead of pushing the snacks and pushing, because if you go anywhere in the Caribbean you go, I'm sure you could find a Trinidad and Tobago snack. But of course, across the region, everybody have green fig, everybody have sweet potato and all these things. But is it that, what are we pushing? So governments have to be able to talk to each other, but we as advocates have to be able to get the message to the governments that not enough is being done across the region to incorporate healthy foods into our schools, so that all the generations coming up will have access to healthy foods. And to Francine's question, how can you present your advocacy to governments or to Parliament? It's a convoluted process sometimes, I think. However, what you can do, again, with the Committee on Social Services and Public Administration, you can write to them, send your information into the chairman, send your information to the secretary and say, this is an issue that needs to be addressed. I recall when we had, there were some issues with the health sector in Trinidad and Tobago recently, and persons kept writing to the government, talking to the government, and then the committee picked up the information and said, you know what, maybe we should talk about what's happening in hospitals. And that was that we had town hall meetings across Trinidad and Tobago for several months, and then information went to the Parliament. So yeah, it takes a lot of time sending information. You can write to your MP, you can write to any member of Parliament, you can write to the independent senators, especially because they are not bounded by any party. So they can bring up information in the committees that they are part of. So it takes time, but you can get your information across.
Colleen, I don't mean to, I don't mean to press too much, but I wanted to understand. So we have access in Barbados to meeting with the ministers and to having them, kind of push the policies where they're willing. But my interest, I have seen in Jamaica, for example, a young child presenting before the Parliament. So I wanted to understand, is there a process for relevant stakeholders to ask to address Parliament, or at least one of the houses? That's what I'm so I don't know if it happens in Trinidad at all. That's what I was specifically getting at. But
Understood.
Thank you. Outside of that, though, you have answered some important questions.
Sure. No, we don't have that way for persons to address the Parliament. We do have a youth Parliament, but again, the students themselves, they come up with the question. So again, getting the information in is usually through a committee. So the committee will get the information, the committee will then make a decision on this is something that we want to do. And it also goes through a member of Parliament as well, because people go into their members of Parliament, talk to them, and then the member brings that information, whether it's the cabinet or whoever, and then that information eventually gets into the Parliament. But media is a lot of how the information is driven is through the media and through social media platforms as well. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you, Francine. Thank you, Jameed, and of course, Ms. Holder for those comments. Jameed, I think on your question, there's a lot that could be said, even for our civil society organizations. I'm smiling at Francine because HSFB and other CSOs on the call have done a really great job at bringing together stakeholders, HCC included. We have that kind of people power, where we try and bring those very same actors that you've mentioned in the same room to have a conversation. It's difficult. It can be challenging, but as Ms. Holder was saying, just that we need to keep pressing. We need to keep creating those spaces for those important conversations. And we have some examples, Jameed, so I can follow up with you on that just in the essence of time. And really appreciate Ms. Holder's comment on the parliament piece, and it's inviting me, I think, maybe all of us to really explore, which we've started to do, and some CSOs have advanced this, how the parliament exactly works, because it seems like each country has their own streams, so how we can really leverage that process. So that's I think a to-do from our end. But Ms. Holder, thank you so much. So many tidbits, and what we'll do, so we have your presentation, and we'll also just pull out some key points, I think, to create a one-pager for circulation with others in addition to your presentation. So thank you. We are past time, but I did want to go back to the comment that was made earlier about, some really impactful advocacy in this space. And one thing that was mentioned throughout the presentation is youth engagement. And I wanted to, again, shout out to the Heart and Stroke Foundation of Barbados and their youth advocates. They did a powerful video for World Health Day. And I'll invite Crystal if she's able to share. And then I'll invite Crystal and or Francine to share kind of what's going to happen or what has evolved from this video. Crystal?
Happy World Health Day! Our children's health as a priority is not a suggestion, it's a necessity. We commend this administration's progress as the school nutrition policy and increased taxes are positive steps. These actions reflect our understanding of the need to protect our vulnerable youth. Obesity and NCDs are a crisis, threatening our children's future.
Ultra-processed foods are detrimental. We need comprehensive policies like bans, labels, and nutrition programs.
Serving fast food in schools goes against policy. Our children deserve better.
Our children's health are our nation's future, and they depend on our bold decisions. We must prioritize health and enforce policies.
Healthy beginnings, hopeful futures. Act now, no half measures.
No half measures. Thank you, Crystal. So I don't know if Crystal or Francine want to share they did this video and now they have the ear of somebody special. Francine or Crystal?
Yes. So we actually have a meeting with Minister Ishmael tomorrow because he would have reached out, haven't seen the video. So we're hoping that goes well and the youth advocates are able to push the message that we are championing.
Thanks, Crystal. And would you mind giving a little background on Minister, just for everyone else who might not be familiar?
No problem. So he is the junior minister of state in the Ministry of Health. And he has been pretty instrumental in our work so far. He actually was a part of our Hope for the Future event last year, and he's been engaging with us since, so we keep that relationship going. And we hope that he is a part of championing the ban on marketing because that is essential. As I was saying in the presentation earlier, all the work is being undermined by the marketing that still exists in the schools. So hopefully we should see something positive coming out of that meeting.
Awesome. So Crystal, I don't know if you saw, but you got lots of applause and hearts because I think this is a really great, hopeful thing to end on because we're spotlighting again the youth advocates again. No huge monetary investment, but created a very, very impactful video that has now resulted in the ear of policymakers. So hopefully we can keep that sort of inspiration going. And I will end here because we are over time, but just wanting to congratulate everyone, all of our speakers for their fantastic work, all of you for staying on even a bit later than what we had intended, and for the incredible work that you're doing and this interest, right? Because as Jimmy pointed out, this is an issue that's affecting so many different sectors. We all have a role to play, especially for us in the civil society space, in across different ministries in our local countries. And so I'm hoping that we can continue working together. The campaign material, I'm hoping and inviting you to share on your various digital platforms. So that's the For the Children that's out right now. Everybody should see it. So hopefully, Ms. Holder, you see it soon in Trinidad. And then the Act on Facts campaign is starting on May 5th. So just encouraging you to share this material, to have conversations. The Act on Facts webpage actually has some specific calls to action. So to Ms. Holder's point, we do have some specific target audiences that we have some specific asks of them. So encouraging you to reflect on that page. And again, a huge thank you to all of you for staying on with us and for your commitment to this. For those who are new, an extra special welcome and thank you for attending. I'm just popping in the chat our mailing list so that hopefully you can join and keep up to date. But now that you are in this group, we'll continue to keep you updated and invite you to other related sessions. So a huge thank you to all of you. We will share the presentations. Take care and have a great one. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Till next time.
Thanks, Danielle.
Thank you too.
Thanks, Danielle.
Thank
Good to
you.
see
Thanks,
everyone
Danielle,
across
and
the
thank you,
region.
Sheena.
Take care.